Get ready to get inspired. This is the Go4TheGoldy podcast.
Hey, it's Wednesday, January 27th, 2021, and I have a really special guest today. I'm joined by ultra distance runner, the current U.S. Snowshoe and ultra running team, and the newest New Jersey state record holder, Cole Crosby. Cole, how are you, brother?
I'm great, Brian. Thank you so much for having me on, man.
Yeah, man. Did I butcher that, or did I do okay?
No, you did great. No, awesome.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, man. I have a lot of questions for you. I'm so excited that I think, honestly, of all the people I've had on so far, you're probably one of the most accomplished people that I've had. So this is really cool, and I always like to start off with letting my guests introduce themselves. Just basically give a brief overview about who you are and what you do.
Well, I mean, I feel like there's a lot of things that I like to do. Running long distances is definitely one of them. But I would say my name's Cole Crosby. I'm a New Jersey born resident. Grew up in central New Jersey. Went to South Brunswick High School. So for all those South Brunswick Vikings out there, go Vikings. Went to school at the University of Oklahoma. Wanted a little bit of a different experience from my peers, so I went out there and been moved around a lot of different places. The constant in my life has definitely been running. I've run my whole entire life. I've always stuck with it, and in the last 8 years, I've really gotten into ultra marathon running. Anything beyond a marathon distance, 30 miles up to what we'll talk about tonight, 197 miles. In the wintertime, I like to throw on snowshoes and compete for the U.S. national team, which is definitely one of my favorite activities. So,
good thing you live in New Jersey and you left Oklahoma for that snowshoe, huh?
Yeah, that was the transition. I living in Oklahoma, I thought I was going to become a mountain runner, and I tried my hand at running up mountains and got my butt handed to me and realized that I was better the longer the distance. So that's where, when I moved back out east, I got into snowshoeing, and things kind of progressed from there,
Yeah. Well, I have to tell you, following you on social media, and for those listening, I came across Cole when I used to work at a running shoe store, and he was the representative for Nathan, and he was, he just pointed to his head for those listening, and every time, you deal with a lot of different reps, when you work in an industry like that, and some of them aren't always the most pleasant, some of them are going through the motions, but Cole always came in and had the most positive attitude, and just couldn't have been nicer. So it's really cool to see really nice people do successful things. So I've been a big fan of yours ever since I met you. I know it's been years since we've actually had a conversation, but I just want to let you know that up front, man. That's why the point of this show is to bring people on who are doing really cool, inspiring things that you may not think may have taken off the beaten course or off the beaten road a way to get there. It's like you said, you haven't always been a snowshoe guy. You haven't always been an ultra distance runner. These are things that you have found a passion for, and my goal is to help people connect with maybe a new passion and draw inspiration from that. So I thought you were the perfect guest to have on today. So let's get into it. So I mean, obviously I want to talk about all the stuff that you do, but what do you want to talk about first? I mean, and let's talk about Oklahoma, right? You went to the University of Oklahoma. You said you wanted a different experience. Did you do any sports when you were at Oklahoma?
Yeah, I mean, I walked onto the cross country team my freshman year. I wasn't fast enough in terms of times to really have the opportunity to walk on. So I kind of connected with some of the current team members, and they kind of took me under their wing a little bit. I trained my ass off, worked really hard. I was running like 70, 80 miles a week kind of stuff, and I did that consistently that freshman year. And sophomore year was when I officially walked onto the team and got to compete. And it was a great experience because you're walking onto a Division I program that at the time was building. And, by the time when I had graduated and left the program, it was knocking on the door at nationals in cross country. My senior year, the team finished 11th in the country, which was pretty cool. So,
Wow.
Just being a part of that kind of culture was really awesome. And it really instilled a lot of hard work and ethic and kind of a training philosophy that I kind of still implement today. So
that's really cool.
Yeah.
So, and just I always like to paint the picture because I didn't get into running until, really later in life. So for those listening, when you say cross country, as a collegiate sport, I know you said like 70, 80 miles a week, but typically what's the standard distance of a race in a cross country event?
Yeah. I mean, most standard, for guys, it's an 8K. So you're talking about almost a 5-mile distance. The championship distance, so like if you make it to regionals or nationals, you'd be running a 10K, so 6.2 miles, usually on golf courses or, kind of like almost like grass track type courses, rolling hills usually, but pretty fast. And that was a eye-opening experience, running in high school. It's like you're running on like municipal parks that got like geese poop everywhere and like divots, and you're running over concrete and potholes. And then you get into the college scene and it's like, whoa, this is like nice. Like you're running on some sweet tracks, So
yeah.
It was definitely kind of a pretty cool experience to see that.
That's great. So you're basically training for 5 to 6 mile races for 4 years in high school or in college, right? And I guess in high school too. Okay, so you got out of college and then you said you moved back east, right?
Yeah. I how I got into ultra running, I was doing, I kind of linked up with a local run shop, OK Runner, in Norman, Oklahoma, where University of Oklahoma is. And they had a kind of like a post-collegiate kind of like marathon group of guys that were training, some gals that were training. And I got linked up with them once I graduated, started training for my first marathon, Oklahoma City Marathon. And, I kind of thought I was getting into shorter distance trail races. I thought I was going to be this real fast speedster guy. Like I'd run like a 10-mile trail race and just like, not, blow the doors off the whatever the course records were and that kind of stuff. But I thought, well, if I can run a 50K trail race, I should be able to run a marathon pretty fast. So I signed up for a 50K ultra marathon race up in the Boston Mountains of Arkansas, just south of Fayetteville, which is a really beautiful area. And the race is called the White Rock 50K. It's one of these, part of the Arkansas Ultra Running Association, and it's like a no fees, no frills type of race. You show up, you like just like donate some cash to the organization, and that's your entry fee. Like they're just like, I asked them like, how much do normally people donate? They're like, like $20 is good. I'm like, okay, I got a $20 bill. Here you go. And it's funny. The race starts at a cemetery, which was kind of strange. And this is like this time of year was when I ran like the White Rock 50K, way back in 2012 2012, okay. 2011, 2012, I think. And I didn't really know much about how to prepare and how to race an ultra marathon. I just go out like I'm running a marathon. Beautiful course up and down these kind of like dirt roads and mountains and whatnot. I fueled on Gatorade. I ate a banana at the turnaround, had some M&Ms, and of course, like any perfect debut ultramarathon, I bonked pretty hard. But luckily, I was only like 4 miles away from the finish, so I just kind of like, hiked up my shorts and just kind of kept going, and set a course record and finished first. Ran 351, 352, and the best part of the whole thing was they changed the course the next year, so that course record will stand forever.
Oh, that's cool. That's awesome.
So, yeah. So, and that was my entry into ultra running. It was like, I was like, it kind of planted a seed. It stuck with me, right? And then I ran the Oklahoma City Marathon. I did really well. I ran like 236, 237. I was second place. I did one of those runs where I negative split like crazy. I went through the half in like 120 something.
Holy
and
cow.
Then I was throwing down 5:10, 5:15 minute miles, like the last like 10 miles.
So for context, for people who aren't runners, what does that average to be about a mile? Like a 3, or I'm sorry, a 2. What'd you say? A 2:36. You finished with, right?
Yeah. I think it's like at least 550. I
So
think
a
it's in the
550
550s.
mile for 26 miles, and this is something that is relatively new to you at this point, right? The Oklahoma City Marathon was your second.
That was my debut.
That is insane.
That was my debut marathon.
How the hell do you go up from there? I would have been like, all right, well, I won. I beat running. Cool.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. It was at that time too where I was more fixated with the mountain trail running scene, the shorter distance. I mean, that was kind of my focus. My graduation present to myself was to run up Mount Washington, the Mount Washington Road Race. It's a race up in the White Mountains in New Hampshire, and you run up to like one of the highest peaks in New Hampshire. It's like 6,288 feet.
Oh my God.
It's one hill, it's one mountain. Like you just go straight up, and you got guys like a Joe Gray out of Colorado. You got like Blake, who's got like quads that are the size of like elephant legs, like from Connecticut. He's always placed up there, and here I am, this young gun, and I'm running with these guys, and I'm keeping pace with them, and I've kept pace with them for like the first half, like the first like 3.5 miles or so. Like I was running with these guys, and then I hit a wall that was so hard that was just like, okay, running the hills of Oklahoma did not prepare me for this. And there were some moments of walking, there were some moments of really, really slow running, and I regrouped, and I think I finished in like 71 minutes, which, the windows are usually like right around 60 minutes or under 60. So not bad. It was a really, I think at the time was a really good, one of the fastest times for like someone in my age, like 21, 22. It was a really good debut. But I felt like I was better at other things, and as I dove into ultra running more, that's what I started to discover.
How did that feel when you were running up the mountain? Because I'm sure like these names are names that if you Google, mountain running, these are the names that are coming up. Like these are So when you see them in person and you're in the middle of a race and you look over or you look ahead of you and they're right there. I mean, how did that feel? That's got to be a pretty crazy feeling.
It felt pretty cool. I felt like I was like, yes, I belong. This is my calling. Like I'm feeling really good. Like the pace felt comfortable, like all that stuff. And mountain running in many ways, like especially the short distance categories, you're grinding. It's similar to snowshoe running in a way where you're just kind of like you feel like your heart rate is like through the roof, but you just keep pushing through that barrier. It was definitely like that. It was it's a totally different animal. So I mean, yeah, in the moment it was cool for sure. And then after a while I'm like, I gotta finish this thing. Like there's only like, you're not gonna walk down the mountain, you can't drop out, you gotta finish it. You got my wife and my dad was up at the top, like you gotta make it to the top so you can make it back down again. So
is that what they do?
Motivation.
They meet you at the top, and then they drive you back down. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty well motivated. That's some great motivation right there to get you to the top.
Yeah, definitely.
So you did that race, and then you were like, maybe this isn't for me. I'm more to the ultra stuff. Was that like a turning point for you, or?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I dabbled in. I was going to SUNY Cortland for grad school, so I was in kind of central New York. And I was looking a lot into running at like Loon Mountain and all these like mountain races, and I ran through the circuit and did some of the USATF kind of mountain championships and whatnot, and I had good performances there, but I didn't have like I felt like I was missing something. I wasn't training the right way. And at that point, I was running a lot of fun trails, like through the Finger Lakes Trail, up through the woods. And, New York State is just a beautiful place to run. And I got captivated with kind of spending some of those weekend days just getting lost in the woods for hours upon hours. At that time, I started working at the Finger Lakes Running Company.
Where's that?
That's in Ithaca, New York.
Okay.
So under Ian Golden, and Ian's a big ultra runner and kind of race director. He puts on the Red Newt Racing business in kind of series. So, he was a guy that was like, hey, I'm putting on this race called the Cayuga Trails 50 mile. Like, I'm bringing a bunch of studs coming all from all over the country to run this event. You should do this. And he worked on me for like 6 months. And I'm like, 50 miles is really far. I don't know. I think I'm going to be more of a marathon 50K kind of guy on the trail. And I signed up, I caved in, and that was an incredible experience. That was one where same kind of thing, like Mount Washington. I went out with the front guys. You got, guys like a Sage Canaday and Matt Flaherty, who's run incredible times. And, for those that don't know, Sage has pretty much created his own running business, and he's a Hoka Hoka 1 sponsored athlete and he's been doing, he's been on the scene for a long time. Very diverse athlete in terms of distance and surface and all that kind of stuff. I ran that. I spent some miles with Yassine Daboun, who's a really awesome dude. I placed, I think I placed like 8th or 9th, which was really good given the field.
Mm-hmm.
But I was such a novice. I didn't know what I was doing. There was a moment like the last 10 miles where I'm just like running up to a log and I'm picking up each of my legs like as if they're like dead, completely limp, because they're so cramped up just to get over these logs,
Oh,
you know. And I'm
imagine,
like,
yeah.
oh, come on.
What time of year is that?
So, it's usually in June.
Oh, so it's nice weather then.
So, like,
at least it's not cold or
Yeah,
anything.
first weekend of June. And yeah, I mean, that was really where I really kind of was like, ultra running's awesome. Like, I felt like I had elements where I felt like I was there, like I felt like I could have placed in the top 4, top 3 kind of thing. There was that spark that was ignited, and I felt like my work wasn't done yet. I had a lot of unfinished business. From there, I mean, really, I started to commit, everything into training for ultra marathons, for pushing myself to extreme long distances.
Isn't that wild? It's just like, it seems like divine intervention. You meet this Ian guy, and had you not met Ian, I mean, who knows where you'd be, right? I mean, he kind of convinced you, coaxed you into it, and then he was the spark to ignite that fire. And that, I was just up in New York. I'm from Buffalo. You met me in Buffalo, but this is where I'm from. And when I went home for like 7 weeks back in October, and we stayed in Canandaigua, and I ran along the lake, and it was beautiful. It was my first time ever being there, believe it or not. It's only an hour and a half from Buffalo, but it was my first time, going there. Obviously, I was just right around the lake, so it was still built up because I'm a city folk. I like you talked about, running around in the woods. That would freak me out, man. Do you ever get freaked out when you're just like running in the woods for hours? How do you? So
No.
do you like? Oh yeah. So this may be a native ad here, but I saw you just got sponsored by a new company last night that you announced, right? Or maybe 2 days ago. I saw the
Coros?
Yeah.
Yep.
So is that a watch?
Yeah, it's a GPS. So through some of my Nathan connections, actually one of my coworkers, he's kind of a big deal at Coros. Dan Schur, he's been their kind of like global sales director and really like growing that company. And so he was the one that kind of turned me on to them, because I had dabbled in different GPS watches and I had not really had much success. And as I started to progress into doing much longer distances, I felt like I needed something that could be more reliable. I'm not the best with super complicated technology, so I wanted something that was more user friendly. And then also Coros, what they're known for is their battery power, battery life. I mean, the watch that I have right now, the Pace, this is like Pace number 1, the original. It gets 25 hours nonstop on GPS. And you can also, there's a mode you could make it so you can get a GPS 60 hours if you need to. So,
wow.
Where others are doing maybe 8 to 12, this watch is just doubling that.
Well, congrats on the partnership, man. It's do you have
thanks, man.
Do they give you like a code or anything like that, or like if someone were to go to buy one of these, would you because
Yeah, I think this is a new program, so they have a couple tiers. The Coros Explorer program is kind of like The next tier below, they have a few like Camille Herron and like super, a couple ultra runners that are like superstars. I'm not there yet, but hopefully we can keep working on climbing up the ladder.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so their tier, I mean, there's a whole package with different stuff. I think there will be a code that I'll have access to be able to share with people.
Yeah. Well, the reason I ask is because after the show, I put all the links. We'll talk about different things, and then I'll put all the links in the show notes. So I'll send you the link as soon as we're done. It'll be produced and everything, and then the link will be up there. So someone who listened to this and then wants to upgrade their watch or whatever, they can go use that link and get it for user reference. So. A little bit of congratulations and a little native advertising there.
Thank you, man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. So that's really cool, man, because outside of Garmin, I mean, obviously everyone knows Garmin, that I really wouldn't know any other watches to go with. And then, you're talking to someone like you who's, crazy experienced and has dabbled in a million different ones. I mean, it's a product that you believe in and were using before that, you partnered with them. So of course, I'm going to take take the professional advice there. So that's really cool, man. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. So you did, okay, so now let's talk about, because I'm interested to hear about the process of getting on Team USA. So we'll dive into that. I want to save the big record-breaking event till the end here. That's going to be the big finale, all right? Because people ask some questions about that. Making Team USA, what's the process look like for that? And what's the distance? Because again, people out there, ultra distance is basically anything over a marathon, right? So it's not like a marathon is 26.2 miles, a half marathon is 13.1. Well, an ultra distance race could be 30 miles, could be 100, could be 200. There's really not a standard. So what's the distance that you train for to qualify, and what's the process look like for qualifying for Team USA as an ultra distance runner?
Yeah, I mean, so when I moved back out east and then started really getting into ultra running in 2012, I signed a really awesome partnership and contract with a company called Mammut, which is like an outdoor alpine brand. So I was like their first North American trail running athlete, part of their what they call the MTR Mountain Trail Running division, which was awesome. I was a part of that brand partnership for almost 5 years before they globally decided to shift dollars kind of to a different avenue, because they're an alpine brand, so they focus more on snowboarding and kind of winter sports.
Gotcha.
So they dissolved the athlete program, unfortunately. But in my early ultra running kind of foray, I mean, I had their support, which was awesome. I'm sorry, I'm blanking. I'm starting to think my thoughts. I'm already blanking up on questions.
No, that's okay. So how do you get involved with Team USA and what kind of distance?
Oh, that's right. That's right.
The races, yeah. You put me on the spot because I'm pretty stupid too, so I'm happy that.
No, you're good. You're good, man. It's funny. I'm thinking like this is kind of the progression and stuff. So I had this partnership that really helped out, and really through the USATF, there's a whole trail running division. It's also right now partnered with the ATRA, which is the American Trail Running Association.
Okay.
So between those two entities, there are each calendar year like a whole slew of USATF ultramarathon events. And in terms of international competition, there's only a few distances within those championships that actually allow you to qualify for these teams. There's a USA 24-hour team, which is insane. You're running on a track for 24 hours usually to qualify. Maybe I'll look at that stuff one day, but right now that I just can't fathom that.
I think that was isn't that part of David Goggins' story, if I'm not mistaken?
I'm sure.
I think that was his part of the story at some point.
He's in that wheelhouse for sure. He's a guy that would definitely do some of those kind of events, like Desert Solstice, which is a crazy track race in Arizona that you just, some of the fastest times happen for 24 hours there. So that's one team. There's a USA 50K road team, which is one that I definitely had been shooting for a while. There's a USA 100K road, And then there's a USA trail team, which usually the 50-mile trail championships. So that our like national championship is usually a qualifier for making that team. So like pretty much they have these international competitions just about every year. So the calendar would come out in January. You'd plan your races and events of where you go for USATFs, and that's how I would build my calendar every year. I was like, I'm gonna make a team. I'm gonna work my butt off so that I can get to a point where I'm able to qualify. And over the past 8 years, that's been my prime focus. I've come really close. I've this last in 2018, I ran my personal best for 50K at the ComStat 50K. I ran 3 hours, 3 minutes, and like 13 seconds.
That's
which if you run under 3 hours, that automatically it's like an auto qualifying, like it's like an Olympic qualifying time, right? So like it automatically qualifies you to potentially make the team. So we're at the 303. I think there's like five slots for the team. So if there's 4 people that are under 3 hours and then they don't have anyone else that's run another time, like, and I'm the fastest time just because I'm just over 3 hours, that would give me that last spot, or I would more than likely get an opportunity.
Gotcha. Okay.
So the incentive was always to run as close to that qualifying time as possible. So, I'd run the ComStat 50K, which has been a USA 50K road championship race a bunch of times. I've run the Cayuga Trails 50 mile, has been the USATF 50 mile trail championship race, which that one usually has selected athletes to go to the USA Trail Championship. And then in recent years, I've done more of the 100K road, and I've run the Mad City 100K. I did that in 2019, and didn't have my best day. One of the things that I've encountered with is I use a product for my liquid nutrition called Tailwind.
Mm-hmm.
It has a lot of sodium and kind of salt minerals to it. And in cold weather, I have to be careful. If I take too much of it as fuel, I get a little bit of like kind of like an electrolyte balance. It's kind of like the opposite of dehydration. I pretty much experienced dehydrated symptoms, so I've had to counterbalance that. That run, I had those issues, and I kind of like tanked towards the end. But I still, I ran 7 hours and 30 minutes. It's like a 7:20 or something mile pace maybe.
That's crazy.
So it was good, but it wasn't just there. And that's been my 8-year career. I've had great performances on the USATF level, but I haven't been in that number one spot. I haven't been the person that's been the national champion. But I've been close. I have had a handful of seconds. I've had 4th place, 5th place. I've been right there, chomping at making the team. And luckily this year, because of the pandemic, there was a team selected for kind of like an exhibition, and that's where I was selected for the USA Ultra team because of my performance at the ComStat 50K, and then just some of my events in USATF events over the years. So that was pretty cool. It was a pretty cool honor, especially to be selected in the middle of a global pandemic. Is always a pretty badass kind of thing. So
yeah, man, that's incredible. Congratulations.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you're working your ass off for it, so well deserved. It's not like you don't deserve it.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome, man. So I know earlier you said when you were training for like cross country, back in college, you were doing like 70 to 80 miles a week. What's a typical training week look like now? How's the evolution progressed to the point where now you're an ultra runner? What's a standard week? How many miles a week?
It's stayed around there. It's still about the same. I've tried to boost my standard base mileage from like where I'm doing more 75 to 80, and then I push a little bit more up to like closer to like maybe 90, maybe close to 100 for like a big week here or there. Mm-hmm. But not too much. I really focus on quality, and I've been running that type of volume, the 70 to 85 miles a week for like 14 years. Wow. So by doing that, with avoiding a lot of injury, like that's been my calling to building fitness. I haven't done anything. Could I run 140 miles a week? Sure. But I think when you do stuff like that, you're asking yourself to find burnout. Like, you can't do that for forever. But I do feel like for myself, I can run that type of volume that I've been doing for the past 14 years. I feel like I could keep doing that for another 14 years. And I've been lucky enough where how I structure it, I try to run a lot of hills up and down. I try to run on like a soft surface, like a dirt road or a trail once a week at least. In the wintertime, I do the snowshoe running, which is it's kind of like cross country skiing. It's a great aerobic activity. It's very strength based, and it really helps because it's fairly minimal impact. So you're not really pounding your knees and other kind of stuff like that. So you're able to really build fitness without doing a lot. Like I could go for a snowshoe run for like 3.5 miles, and that's like as if I ran. The way I always say it is, it's like running double the distance that you would do on a road or a trail. So 3.5 miles is 7 miles on the road, and so it's a great way to like not have to to build that strength without doing a lot of extra volume. So that's been me. It's just been like I'm really methodical process, and I focus I focus a lot on like my cadence, running economy, running efficiency, and I do it a lot from a mental aspect too. Like I think in ultra running, what happens is your body starts to tighten up, it starts to fatigue, and if you're able to slow down the least in a race, you're gonna win. You're gonna be up there on the podium. You're gonna have a really great day. And so what I learned was how to train my body to be as smooth and as efficient at different paces, and different terrains, and different like I don't want to say altitudes, but different levels of vertical change, and just be like a metronome, be as efficient as possible. And that's been really my secret.
I think that was really well said. First of all, I mean, I'm obviously nowhere near the level that you are in anything, but I think that's what drew me to endurance sports, is because I knew like I played arena football, and I played football up until my late 20s, and what I used to get really angry was I would work 10 times harder than everyone else in the team. But because someone was, 6'2", 225, or, just had some natural athletic ability, they were, much better. Or like I played baseball growing up, and if someone could throw a ball 90 miles an hour, it's not because they practiced that a lot, you know what I mean? They were just kind of given that ability. Whereas in endurance sports, this is my belief, you can't hide the work. Once race day comes, your race is a reflection of your training, and that's it. I mean, that's all there is to it, and if you haven't trained as hard as you should have, it's going to show. It's going to come out in the wash, and that's what I think is really attractive for me, at least, to the sport, is the consistency, that grind. For 8 years, you've been hitting the same mileage every week in and week out, and it's those days that you don't want to wake up that you really get the benefit. Anyone can work out when it's easy. If you only worked out when it was easy for you, when you were in the mood to do it, well, then you wouldn't be where you are. It really is just, it's making it part of your day. It's just like waking up. You wake up and you do it. That's all there is to it. There's no question. There's no getting out of it. There's no I don't feel like it. You have a goal in mind, and just reverse engineer from there. That's it. So I think what you were saying is like it's just perfectly stated. Do you ever do any treadmill running?
I try not to.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge treadmill fan. When I do, I try to do it on an incline. Like I like to try and do it as like a hill workout.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that helps me mentally. But I don't think you're going to see me doing any kind of treadmill record attempts anytime soon. Sorry, world. Sorry.
Well, it's been a good show.
I like to be outside,
It's been a good show, everybody. Have a good one. I'm a huge fan of the treadmill because I suck at pacing. So I'm trying to like hammer in because I was a sprinter my whole life. So it's just, dump the tank, and then you go back to the huddle. Dump the tank, go back to the huddle. And I try to hammer in my head, what a 7:30 mile feels like, or what a 6-minute mile feels like, and just like try to build in that internal metronome. So that's where I see the value in a treadmill. But you're right, there is nothing like running outside, and I definitely see the value in that for sure. So, I mean, if you're a trail runner, obviously there's no simulating running outside, right?
Well, Brian, I love that you bring that up, because like for me, like I'm almost like more of a fish out of water on a treadmill. Like I'm one of those guys where I'm like, my feet are either clipping the very front of the treadmill, or I'm like too far back in it. Like I can't figure out like how to run right in the center of the thing.
Well, I'm 5'6",
and so like
it would be very hard for me to clip the front of the treadmill.
But it's like that's been my Achilles heel when it comes to these things. So that's where I just, like the longest treadmill run I've ever done is maybe like a half marathon. And after that I was like, I don't think I want to run on a treadmill for like another like 5 years. Like I got my fix.
I find it interesting because I had a girl, Kim Vona, on, and she was the Buffalo News Runner of the Year. And so she, obviously she's training for a very unique set where I don't know if you know much about the Buffalo Run of the Year series or anything at all, but they have different races throughout the year and that are like qualifiers for the series, and there are different distances. So it's a mile, a 5K, a 10K, a half marathon, and a marathon. So it's a pretty unique blend, and I asked her, and she's like, "Oh, I'm obsessed with the treadmill. I love the treadmill." So it's interesting to see different runners and their mindsets and how everyone approaches training differently,
Yeah.
So my question,
go ahead.
No.
I was gonna say, with you being a Buffalo guy, it's like when I'm living in upstate New York, it's like you got snow. So for me, it's like I'm gonna run like for me, like I love the winter time. Like I know there's so many people who are like, get me to a warm climate, get me to the tropics or something right away. But like I've grown to love it because I just love the peacefulness, the tranquility. Like when you have a fresh snow and you're just like, you're the only person out there, it's like you have this winter wonderland all to yourself.
Yep.
And then you factor in having snowshoes, and then it's like now you're trail running in winter, where like oftentimes these trails are impassable because there's so much snow, but now you have a tool that's going to allow for you to experience this. And it's just like, I feel like I'm like 5 years old again, like frolicking around, playing with my friends, like after we get like a nice winter storm, because New Jersey doesn't get the snow that it used to get. So growing up, like when we would get like our foot of snow, like me and my buddies would all be out and building forts and like running around the woods. And it allows me to reminisce on those kind of childhood moments.
You're right about that, because I really do think, well, for me, I agree with you 100%, but I think of it in a different way too. You're right. I can't tell you, like, now that I live in Dallas, it never snows here. And it snowed actually last week, but it was just like flurries in the air. Obviously, it's not going to stick or anything. And I was with a couple of our best friends, and they're from California, so they'd never seen snow. So we were with them, and she's just like, "Oh my God, it's snowing!" So excited. And it's funny because people don't experience, like when I lived in Buffalo and it would snow. When you wake up and you head out the door and there's no trail. I mean, you're the first footprints in the path that you're taking. I don't know if you're familiar with Delaware Park in Buffalo, but like when you run at Delaware Park, and there were no footprints, you're the only one out there. There is and the cold air in your lungs just it makes you feel alive. But for me, kind of selfishly too, I look at it like I'm beating every other person that's too cowardly to be out here right now, or that just called it a day because it snowed. You know what I mean? Like I'm out here grinding. Yeah, and I'm beating you now. You know what I mean? I have a really competitive mindset, so I look at it like, if I'm not out there, well, someone else is out there doing it. So if I'm that guy out there doing it, that means that there's people not doing it. So that's what motivates me a lot too when I'm out there. It pushes me through runs when I don't feel like doing them too.
Definitely.
So when I was going to ask you earlier, so I wanted to go two ways with it. So I'll go this way first with it. So as far as your training goes, is it only running? Do you ever do any type of strength training, or do you do any type of yoga, or you know what I mean? It's literally just you're just running basically all the time?
Yeah, I mean I do a little bit of core, your push-ups, your sit-ups, your kind of like maybe a little bit of med ball kind of stuff, but that's really it. Like I have gone to the gym based on like a certain type of run, like there was a national snowshoe championship event in Vermont one year, and it was pretty much like running up a ski mountain for the first first 5K of the course, first 3 miles. So I knew I needed to build up more leg strength to be able to, sustain a good effort up there, because that was going to really make or break the race. So, I hit the gym. I hit the gym and really did a lot of leg presses and a lot of things to really build up more leg muscles and leg strength to be able to be more explosive, ultimately, because I don't have tree trunk kind of legs. I'm a pretty thin guy. So I do it based on different events demands. Should I do it more often? Absolutely. I think it's something that can be very valuable for longevity and all that. For me, I've lived the blue collar life. I've worked full time for a long time, and with going to grad school, and worked a lot then too. I mean, for me, it's also I've focused more of my time on more of the running part of it, where I can do some quick stuff at home versus driving to a gym and doing all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Though my New Year's resolution is to incorporate more more gym time, because I do think it is something that could help elevate me to another level.
Well, now you said it on the internet, so now you have to do it because it's out there. So
yeah, I know, right?
No, it's funny because, and I'll tell you what I find really interesting too in the world of running. So there's a guy I'm trying to have on. We're working out a date where he's going to have time, but his name's Patrick Cutter, and he's from Rochester, and he's strictly a marathon guy, but he's basically complete. He doesn't look like a runner at all. Like, this dude's jacked, and he's always in the gym, like lifting, and he's right around. And I hope I'm not doing him a disservice right here by saying this, but I think he's around like 235, for marathon. So this dude's cranking it, and he does not look like a runner. And he's not tall either. I think he's like 5'8" or something like that. So I find I draw inspiration from so many different people, because I always was under the impression, especially as a football player, where I was like, well, I could never do endurance sports because I'm going to have to lose like 50 pounds. And, that's just, I don't know if I could ever do that. So I love just seeing the difference and how different runners are, how their approach is. But everyone, that I follow is like successful in what they're doing. So it's cool, so I'm hoping that, by talking to you, someone out there who's just like, well, I don't really like lifting, but I like running, what if, and then, what if, and then you go down that what if trail, you know what I mean? And if we can inspire someone to do their first 50K, then we did our job. That's what the whole point of this is.
Yeah. And I also think, like, when it comes to trail running, like, you're engaging so many other, like, muscles, and, like, for running uphill efficiently, like especially on a steep incline, like you really got to engage your core. So like, I think there's definitely elements to the actual training of running where you can kind of get cross training capabilities for your body, especially in like what I do. But at the same time, like there's definitely a lot of value, because especially as you start to get older, like you gotta make sure your body can still be incredibly resilient. I look at a guy like Michael Wardian, who now he's starting to, he's getting there in his 40s, and he's still competing at an incredibly insane level. I mean, this guy can run, like a 3:06 50K. I mean, he's running amazing. just under 6 minutes a mile for a 50K, and he's a masters runner. And he's done that with, like, he's run incredible 100K times. And I mean, the guy is a great inspiration. So, and you can watch his like social media. He does a lot of gym work, and I definitely think that stuff can pay off for sure.
So I was talking to one of my buddies the other day too, and I said, I really I'm always trying to find myself, as cheesy as this sounds, but like, what's your why? Why? I ask myself that quite a bit. If I'm running and it's raining and I'm 10 miles into a 15-mile run, and it's a Saturday morning at like 6 in the morning, like why am I doing this? What am I doing? And I honestly think I kind of took a step back and like kind of took a meta approach to it, and like that guy you just mentioned, I think I really find value in redefining what old means. I think if you, like, when I was a kid, I'm 34, so when I was a kid, you know, a 34-year-old was, you know, you're working your 9 to 5, you have a house, you come home every night, and you're just calling it a day, you know. And now you look at people, you know, in their 50s that are doing incredible stuff in their 40s, like the guy you just mentioned, you know, Cameron Haynes. I mean, I'd assume you've probably crossed paths with him before. Yeah, so
Yeah.
he's someone that I'd really draw inspiration from, because he's a guy who does a lot of lifting, you know, and he's a world-class archer, but he's also a crazy good endurance runner, you know. And that guy, I mean, he's in his late 40s, I think, or maybe mid 40s, but I think that's what draws me a lot. Is I look around at a lot of my friends, or, you know, just people my age, and they act like life's over. You know, they're like, well, you know, I'm old now. Like, what the hell are you talking about? You know, I want to do this forever. That feeling of competing and achieving your best, and like setting goals and training incrementally to get to that point, that's an addictive feeling, man. That I can't imagine living without that feeling, to be honest with you. It's crazy to me.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think it's about, like, when you say finding your why, like, I mean, I've had many of those runs where I'm just like, should I really, you know, because I mean, to build yourself up and to make running a discipline in your life, like, there are sacrifices that are made, you know.
Yeah.
And I've had those moments running in the pouring rain. Like, I'm not a fan of running in freezing cold rain, you know, 36 degrees and it's raining.
Oh, that's the worst.
That's my least favorite weather. But I've had those soul searching moments where I'm like, you know what, like, I've committed so much of my life to this, and I do feel like there's the storybook's not over, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, especially for me, I've been so close. It's kind of like I've played in the Super Bowl, like, you know, 8 times, and I have come up short every time. It's always been that I've always missed the game-winning field goal. And why should you just define yourself as being that person that was like, oh, so close,
Yeah.
but maybe next time, you know? Like, I want my next time to be now. And so, you know, I think that, you know, for me, like, I believe that, like, especially in running, I think it's very transformative, and there's, each one of us has a story to tell. And you know, you just have to, you know, in many ways grab your life by the reins, and kind of, you know, just, you know, if you want something, you should you know, work on trying to achieve that, you know.
I agree with you, man. And that's really
so,
where your life will be better for having done that. And that's why the point of this is I try to have different people on that are doing different things. So if you're listening to this, you know, it's like, well, you know, maybe ultra running's not for me, but, you know, I had the guy on who's literally one of the best Can-Jam players in the world. I don't know if you know, like, and, you know, maybe that's a direction you want to go with it. You know, I'm looking at, like, I'm trying to get the best. There's a competitive frog jumping. Like, there's all kinds of wacky shit out there that people do that there's national world championships for, you know. And that's what I'm really trying to do, is because I think there's too many people that don't have goals, that kind of have let life slip by, and they just fall into these ruts that they're in just cyclical lifestyle, and it's just riding out until you die. And I'm like, to me, that's just no way to live your life. That's so crazy, you know. And just pushing yourself and achieving things that you didn't think were possible out of yourself, but then achieving those feelings and kind of seeing the next level. What's the next level I can get to? What's the next level I can get to? I think that's just, I'm addicted to that. So
yeah.
I think it's time we talk about your record. All right. I think it was the most impressive, ridiculous thing that I personally know someone who's done. I mean, that was amazing. So why don't you give a little bit background? So he ran point to point, the state of New Jersey at one time, and set the record in the process. So go ahead and bring us through that experience, because people got some questions about that.
Yeah, it was awesome. You know, it was, for me, you know, a couple weeks removed from all of it. I mean, I've had the chance to recover, and you know, I'm finally started to get back into running. It's not by any means anything glorious right now, but I'm able to kind of start putting one foot in front of the other, which is great. But it was just like this super inspirational, heartwarming experience for me. I mean, when I decided on running the whole state of New Jersey, you know, this is let's flash back to January 20 2020, so about a year ago from this time, and I'm getting ready to run in the World Snowshoe Running Championships in Japan. That was being held in February, and we got to go and do that, luckily, given everything. And so I was preparing for that, and I was looking at, like a lot of runners do, they like to look at a calendar and kind of like plan their year out ahead, right? And I had known that a lot of people have done these FKTs, fastest known times. It's like whether you're trying to get a fastest known time on the Appalachian Trail, or it's usually like there's people that have done it for running across the whole entire country and even across states. And so living in New Jersey, I thought, well, I had recently moved back to New Jersey. Maybe someone's run across the state of New Jersey. So, I do my Google search, I check it out. I don't really find much. But I did find a documentary, Running the New Jersey 184 was what it was called. And I clicked on that, watch it, and that was my inspiration. I mean, it chronicles 3 runners that take on this challenge of running from the High Point State Monument, the highest point in New Jersey. It's like 1,800 feet above sea level, all the way down to the Cape May Points Lighthouse. And after watching that, I kind of, the seed was planted and was like, I have to do this. And then it was just a matter of, when am I going to do it? And so I knew that I'm a cold weather runner, and originally I was thinking about doing it in the fall of 2020. But given all the stuff going on and kind of how I wanted to prepare for it, by the time September rolled around in 2020, I had committed to really doing it for January 2021. Just because I just felt like it made the most sense for me from a work perspective. I work in the golf industry, so it's a very slow time for us. It just, I felt like the cold weather would be better. Running to Cape May, which is a really adorable beach town or shore town for those New Jersey residents out there. And running there in the summertime would be just way too much. There would be way too much traffic, way too much people going around. It would be logistically difficult. So doing it in the winter, I felt like was a smart move. And yeah, that's how it all kicked off. I mean, from there, I reached out to Anthony Russo, who's one of the runners in that documentary, and Connie Gardner, and picked their brains about doing it in the course. And they had volunteered to come out and help pace me. And really from there, the whole planning process began. I really, there had been other people that had run across New Jersey, but the routes were different. Some people had started over by the New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania border, which is only about 5 miles away from where High Point State Park is. But I wanted a captivating story. Right? That documentary inspired me, and I felt like to do this, I wanted to pick a route that was the fastest route, like a straight line. Point A to point B, the fastest the fastest path between two points is a straight line. And so that was my intention. And I think we definitely succeeded. I mean, I think it's a, given the course, I think it's a very, very fast, efficient course for what it is.
So was it along like a throughway, or was it mostly trail, or was it like concrete? What kind of, or was it a mixture of everything, or what was it?
It's a mix, yeah. So like the documentary, they mapped out their directions by Google Maps, by the walking directions, and so that was my basis. I was like, let me look at this course, and I'm looking at it. I'm like, I'm guessing I'm gonna follow what they did. Because of the documentary, they had sponsors in a town called Flemington, which took them a little bit further west from a more direct line.
Okay.
So they ended up actually doing a slightly different route. But I pretty much followed mostly the main route that they had kind of carved out. So, again, there's a little bit of a few changes just because there were some like bridges that were closed and had to reroute and that kind of stuff. And I was able to recon the course and get ideas on how to execute this. But man, it's an awesome course. It's an awesome tour of New Jersey. It has every element of New Jersey. I feel like it's got some traffic, it's got busy roads, but it's also got cute towns, and it's just like it's a mixture of mostly roads, and there are some trails to it. You got some trails in the Pine Barrens. I ran on the Sussex Branch Trail in kind of near Newton, New Jersey, kind of northern New Jersey. There's also like gravel roads kind of near Bedminster, which is kind of central New Jersey. And I would say maybe 90% road and then 10% kind of like a gravel road trail. But it's, this is a tour of New Jersey on foot. That's really what it is. And the course is exactly that. It shows you places that you would never have imagined when you think of New Jersey. It's really cool.
So how long ago was that documentary made?
It was made in 2000. Well, they ran in 2015.
Okay.
And the documentary came out in 2016.
Were they pissed when you reached out to them and you're like, I'm gonna beat you? No, they were real nice about it.
Yeah.
Cool. I would have been like, screw you, find your own way.
No, well, and that's the other thing was that out of the three people, one of them there was only one that finished, and Connie Gardner, she was the pacer. She was the one that showed up to just try to help them get to the finish line, and she ended up running the whole thing. So she was kind of the course record holder before I got to do this. But the thing is, before this, it wasn't really well known. Like, there was people that watched the documentary, but like in terms of actually having a real course that someone could go and pull up a file and say, all right, next year, Bob Smith wants to run the New Jersey Point2Point. Like now how it's set up, how I did it on the Strava and have the file easily shareable, like now anyone can take the course that I did and model that perfectly.
So you're quite literally a trailblazer.
Yeah, in a way. Yeah. I mean, awesome. Using more of the modern technology, so that was definitely my goal. And that was, in terms of a logistics standpoint, like that was the hard part, was that I was going off of Google Maps. Like, there wasn't really a route where I could just go into my GPS watch and upload a file and it could tell me like, turn right on such and such street. Right. So like I had to, as you said, like carve it out myself.
So was this, when all was said and done, what was the mileage and how long did it take you?
It was 197.22 miles. And it took me 44 hours, 42 minutes, and 21 seconds.
So I'm a dum-dum. What kind of average, like, what did you try to average? Or did you try to average a specific, or were you just finish?
So when I first came up with this idea, and, this is January 2020, I'm looking at other, like, there's 200-mile races out there. Candace Burt, she's a race director. She puts on like what they call the Triple Crown of 200-mile races. They're all trail races. They're very hard. But I started doing research on like other people that run fastest known times on other courses that were similar distances.
Okay.
To kind of gauge like what effort, what pace would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
I even ran it by Connie Gardner, and she was like, I said I picked the number 40 hours. 40 hours is about 12 minutes and like 20 seconds a mile average, roughly. And she was like, that's a bold time goal. Like that's moving. And I was like, yeah, that's my carrot on the string. I'm going for that. Ultimately, I fell a little bit short. But I feel like, when you're going into uncharted territory, there's a lot of things that I didn't expect to encounter the way that I did.
Mm-hmm.
Sleep deprivation was one of those elements. Again, I averaged 13:36 a mile for 197 miles, which I'm definitely really proud of. I mean, that was anytime that I was really like running, like I was running anywhere between 10 to 13 minutes a mile for that whole entire time. I lost my time when I stopped, when I had my support vehicle pulled aside and I'm like half asleep and I'm trying to sip on Dr. Pepper or whatever to kind of fuel myself. And maybe I had intended to stay for 5 minutes and it turned into 15 minutes, Mm-hmm. So that time ultimately added up to where I got to the 44 hours, which, I mean,
That's incredible, man.
I made it, so I can't complain.
Right. That's incredible. Side note, have you ever heard of the Barkley Marathon?
Yes, I'm never gonna do that.
You seem like a candidate for that. You wouldn't want to ever do
Never.
that. Okay.
Never.
So
I have other eggs to fry.
I feel you. You can only pick and choose so many battles, right?
Exactly.
So I'm going to pull up these questions that I got here, all right? So these are questions that people wanted to ask you. All right. So this one comes from my fiance. She actually rifled off a bunch of questions for you. She's very interested in this. She commented wow with an exclamation point in the comments here too. All right. So she said, how do you overcome wanting to quit or feeling defeated?
Yeah, that's a great question. A lot of running longer distances is really about not giving up, not quitting. It really is a three-pronged approach. It's the mind, body, and spirit, right? Those are the really three elements I think that get strained in an ultramarathon. Especially when I ran across New Jersey, I did this as a personal challenge for myself. I had never run further than 86 miles. And here I am trying to go for 197 miles. And I knew that this run was really gonna push my buttons in different ways that I never experienced before. Where I really excelled was my mentality, my mindset. I mean, throughout the whole entire run, I was under siege. Physically, my body was battered, and my mind was being tested with focusing on my headlamp illuminating the white line on the side of the road, trying to make sure I'm not running off the road as I'm nodding off, and it's hard to see the road, and it's cold, and my face is wind chapped, and all these different factors that came into play. But I remained focused. I remained controlled. I knew that what the task was at hand. I was proud of myself that my body was not failing me. It might have been slowing down, but I was still maintaining forward progress. I mean, there was a moment in the run where it was like after 3 a.m, and I'm almost nodding off, and I'm on 206, which is a fairly busy road, but that time of night there's like nobody out there. It's like a wasteland, and I end up grabbing trekking poles, hiking poles, and I use those just to keep me upright.
Wow.
And I listened to the clanging of the trekking poles on the asphalt. And that was a way for me to focus my mind on something that could keep me awake, keep me attentive. Because if I let my mind slip away, I would start to slip into this almost like slumber, right? Like my mind would just almost like want to shut off. And so I tried to not worry about how far I had already gone. I tried to stay in the moment, but also know that I was going to be challenged like I had never been challenged before, and I was ready for it. Whatever was going to come my way, I felt like I was going to problem solve and be one step better than what was being dealt to me based on my circumstances. And that positivity, I think, really helped. That mentality really allowed me to be laser focused and really allowed me to have the forward progress that was needed to get to Cape May. And then the X factor is just factor in all these people from New Jersey and from all over, just the amount of support, people donating to the GoFundMe for the Roadrunners Club of America, like the people that were helping pace me from all these different running groups all across New Jersey. So I had people running with me, encouraging me. I had people dropping off food and supplies and things that my wife loves. She loves Dr. Pepper, and people are dropping off cases of Dr. Pepper for us. There's families on the side of the road with signs and cowbells, cheering, screaming my name. What can be more motivating than that? I mean, this wasn't it wasn't a real race. It was a challenge, right? It was a foot challenge is what it was. And just the generosity of people was next level. It was really the fuel to the fire to just make me stay so motivated. I was as this run kept going, I'm I'm going to finish this thing no matter what. At this point, I'm already 130 miles in this thing. Yeah, I'm going to finish. There's no quitting is not an option. As long as my body is not not to a point where I can't keep moving forward, I'm winning. I'm winning this battle. And that was my my winning mentality and mindset the whole time.
That's so crazy, man. Well, I was gonna ask you. You mentioned the GoFundMe. Is your GoFundMe still live? Like, is that something that's still?
Yeah.
So we'll put that link too. So yeah, send that to me afterwards, and I'll put that in there too. So if people would like to continue to donate, hopefully they do. And how could you not want to donate to someone that's doing what you're doing? It's incredible stuff, man. So we'll go. Sorry. So she got another question. So would you ever do an event like this again, or in her words, is it a one and done sitch?
For running the state of New Jersey, I do feel like it's a one and done thing for me. If someone wants to go out there and do it and try to run a faster time than me, I'd love to help pace them if I have the flexibility in my schedule to do so. But I think, I want to fry different eggs. This is an experience that I don't think if I did it again, I don't think it would be the same as what I got to experience on those 2 days, or day and a half, I guess, almost 2 days. But by doing it, I've had goals of like running other longer events. I want to run the Spartathlon, which is a crazy road ultramarathon in Greece, and there's a lot of history behind it, and there hasn't been a lot of Americans up at the top of the podium for many years. The women from USA have had better luck than the men, but I want to go out there and I want to see what I'm made of. It's 156 miles, in September in Greece. I want to. When I first got into trail ultra running, there's a race series called the Four Deserts Race Series, and virtually it's self-supported. So what that means is that you carry all of your own supplies. It's a 7-day event, and you run to like 25 miles a day in some of the harshest desert environments in the world. We're talking about like the Sahara Desert. We're talking about the Gobi Desert. We're talking about the Atacama Desert. We're talking about Antarctica, because Antarctica is a desert. And these events are just incredible. And it's, you're carrying all your supplies in a backpack, and you're running from checkpoint to checkpoint, and like you sleep in tents at night, and the race management like virtually has your tent all set up, and then when you leave, they pack it all up and move it to 30 miles down the way and plop it there, and that's where you run to. So it's like this whole international experience. It's just incredible, and you're pushing yourself through some of the most intense environments out there. And that's my next frontier. Wow. I'm motivated to do like a race like the Badwater, like 135 mile ultra race, running in the hottest place, lowest place on the planet, pretty much.
Oh my God.
I want to do that. I want to run. There's tons of Arctic ultra marathons out there. I mean, there's so many, and nobody really pays attention to these. Like there's a Iditarod Trail Invitational, which is a 350 mile event. They also have a 1,000-mile event, which is the original Iditarod, like the Balto kind of thing, like the actual dog sled race that goes all the way through like the Alaska wilderness. Like I want to do that. So am I going to run New Jersey again? No. Maybe in the future will I run a different type of New Jersey route? Yes. And I'll allude to that, but it might be a pathway that's something that people haven't totally thought about, that is primarily on trail, that goes across the whole state. So, I'll maybe look to do something like that. But ultimately, I want to push myself in longer distance events that are more expedition based. And this run in New Jersey really unleashed a side of me that I knew was there all along. It taught me that, deep down inside of us, we all have this like wild beast of an animal that can be unleashed and unhinged, and can allow us to be just survivalists, can allow us to really tackle anything that comes our way. Because when you're a survivalist, like surviving is your only option.
I can tell this unleashed son, man. You're all fired up right now.
it's either survive or perish, right?
Yeah.
So like you don't overanalyze things. You just go. You do this. You do the instinctual things. You do the simple things of taking care of yourself and being smart, and knowing that there's a goal that you just have to be like a freight train and keep pushing on to get to it.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
No, I listen, man. I what you just said is awesome, and we talked about earlier, the abilities that humans have within themselves that I think people don't even scratch the surface of within themselves. I think is just it's a shame, that we have this in us and it's never acted upon the majority of people. And I'll tell you, I mean, I say this time and time again, but I have this like competitive streak in me where I have to compete. Like and whether it's you competing against yourself or other runners in a crazy event, or for me it's like I like the shorter, like sprint triathlon is what I do. Like I have to get that out of me, and if I don't, I'm a different person. I said this in the last show, but luckily my fiance, she understands that like I have to get that out of me, because otherwise I'm a different person. Imagine if it was just like, all right, Cole, well, you can never run again. What would you do with yourself? You know what I mean? Like it would be, you couldn't handle yourself. It's this beast that once the genie's out of the bottle, that's not going back in.
Yeah, in many ways it's like it's this really freeing type of feeling, and it is a very spiritually powerful kind of feeling too. It just, it's motivating, and the best way I can describe it is like, kind of a part of the experience for me. I was running from a tall spire down to a lighthouse. And a part of why I did this whole run was I wanted to, do something that could be motivating, inspirational, positive.
I think we lost you. Hold on. Technical difficulties here. Hold up. Oh. We back?
Sorry, we lost you there.
We're back. We're back, man. I was singing, so thanks for saving the people listening from that.
But what I'm saying is like be a beacon, right? Like I thought about the light of a lighthouse, and it's something that like from my headlamp even, it's just through a sea of darkness, a light that can just illuminate your path and like guide the way. Like it's kind of like a Pandora's box kind of thing. Like hope is like that bright light. It may not illuminate everything, but it illuminates a path, and in many ways I hope that this run was something that could kind of help illuminate something in everyone, everyone that got to experience it and watch on and, hear the story, because that was the story for me. There's so many people that came together in this and really touched me in such an incredible way that allowed for my light to shine bright. And that motivation really guided me to the finish line. It really did.
I love that, man. That's so cool.
So what I say is be a beacon, right? Be a bright light. Be positive. Like the world, we just can't keep living in this world of negativity. We got to live in a sea of positivity. So that's been my motivation for that run, as well as anything else that I do moving forward.
Well said, man. I mean, that's beautiful right there, and that's you're the perfect person to have on the show. I mean, I couldn't be happier that you decided to come on here. It's really much appreciated. So Jenny also has one last really simple question for you. What was the first food that you ate when you finished?
Well, Jenny, I got to tell you, I was such a wreck when I finished. I know I had burnt 25,000 calories, and I probably consumed about 15,000 calories. So you do the math, that leaves me at like a deficit. I think when I did it, I was like a deficit of like 10 to 11,000 calories. Well, I was so sleep deprived, so tired. I did take a few naps during the run. I took 2 of them, maybe 30 minutes one time and 40 minutes the other time. And even so, I was so exhausted that I stuffed a little bit of pasta in my mouth, tried to take a shower, and tried to fight nodding off. And then I fell asleep. And that was it. And then the next morning I had coffee and a delicious smoothie from a place called Coffee Time in Cape May. They were really nice to have us come out and, come in and see them. And yeah, and then after that, I was just eating nonstop. All I could do was eat, sleep, and use the bathroom. That was my existence for a full week.
So basically, you turned into a dog for a little bit.
Yeah, I did. It was the craziest thing. I normally recover quick from these types of runs. Maybe not necessarily a 200-mile effort, but I mean, this effort really pushed me. I really pushed myself to the to a level that I've never been to before, and my body definitely was telling me, like, you need to take some time off, buddy, because we are wrecked.
Well, so I have another question from Brittany. Brittany K. Kind of along the same lines, but it's food related. She said, "Did you carb up before you ran, or how did you make sure to stay on top of your nutrients?" I know you mentioned Tailwind is one of the supplements that you use. Did you, and you just obviously mentioned pasta was a little bit on the course that you were, when I use the word course loosely, but when you were, did you eat a lot of solid food, or was it more all liquid that you were trying to take down as you were running?
Yeah, it was interesting. So I did have two slices of pizza the night before. We had what is it? Not like a kind of like a sub Jersey Mike's. So I had that. The way I look at it is try not to do something that you're not used to. Like, so I just kind of had like a normal type of dinner. I just maybe ate kind of two meals. Like the slices of pizza I had, the cheese pizza, were like the size of like a large dinner plate. They were huge. I think when we focus too much on carbo loading, I think it puts too much strain on our body and system. Like, I think a smarter way to carbo load is to maybe incorporate a little bit more carbs into your diet throughout a whole entire week. Spread it out so that your body's not so thrown for a loop.
Overwhelmed.
So like the night before, like if your body's like, what the heck is going on? Like it's like we have a flood of carbs going on. Like, help me. And that puts strain on your system, and you don't want that. So I did stuff like that. In terms of like my nutrition throughout the run, it was primarily solid food. It was things like gummy bears. It was all my favorite foods: gummy bears, Cheez-Its, salt and vinegar potato chips. What I found out was that as I got further in, fatty foods really appealed to me. So olives and kind of like different cheeses and what else? Like avocados. I like the little baby puree, like the fruit purees. So I had a lot of those because it's easily digestible. Good nutrients. I drank oat milk. I love chocolate oat milk. I would just chug gallons of those. On average, I did about 300 to 400 calories an hour. I used Tailwind as a way to get calories, but also liquid fuel, get my electrolytes. I drank a lot of water, drank a lot of Dr. Pepper and ginger ale, and I had McDonald's hash browns the first morning. And that's the thing, is like your body like gets cravings, and those cravings just listen to them. Like if I'm like, ooh man, these olives look so good, like you start eating an olive, you're like, I can eat this whole entire jar. Well, don't tell your body no. Like that, your body's saying, I need more oils and fats and like a more of a savory palate. I need that. So listen to your body. And that's how I kind of arrange my food. I mean, my body was all about avocado, the fattiness, especially running that long distance. I mean, I was not just going through carbohydrates, but I'm tapping into my fat stores and my muscle even. So having foods that have good protein and good fats to them was like essential.
That's really interesting. I find this whole aspect really interesting because, personally, I'm not running races that are over an hour. My sprint tries are just, you're dumping the tank. I mean, you're literally, when you grab the bike, you're getting on your bike on the fly. There's just not every second counts. So nutrition is not something that I even pay attention to, because it's not necessary in an hour race, So this is a whole aspect that I find really interesting and always have, but it's cool hearing, kind of the play-by-play as you did almost 2 day race, to hear this. I mean, that's wild. Well, yeah, that's pretty cool, man. That's very interesting.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I think the longer runs, like I've worked a lot on, there's people that do like intermittent fasting and like all this stuff, and I've done more of I've worked on fat adaptation. So like, because I used to be the guy that was just taking energy gels all the time, and I would get to a point in like a 50 mile to 100K race, and I would just last 5 miles hit a wall, and I would keep taking in the gels, and they weren't really doing anything for me. And it was because my insulin levels had reached a certain spike where no matter what I was putting in, I was already at that limit. My body couldn't process anymore. My insulin was just way too high. And so it took me a couple years to do some training runs. So now when I run in the morning, I used to have to like eat food. Now I just drink, 8 to 16 ounces of water. I go out, do my training. If it's a hot day, I'll just drink more water, carry a bottle with me. And, that's how I've been doing it. And then I usually kind of eat a breakfast, something to kind of replenish, 9-10 o'clock in the morning before I really start my work day. And that's really helped me, kind of be more efficient. It's allowed me to switch gears. My body is like, okay, we've done carbs for a while. Now we're going to switch over to the fats and protein side of things. And my body's like, yeah, we're used to this. We got this. And that transition is just more seamless.
It's amazing. When we were talking about earlier about like people, not ever reaching their potential or even trying to, dig deep, but the other side of that same coin is nutrition wise. I mean, there are so many people that just don't listen to their bodies, or like if me and Jenny go out on a Saturday night and, have a couple pops, we'll say, and, wake up hungover on Sunday or something, you eat like a garbage breakfast or something like that. After we'll eat it, we'll look at each other and be like, how do people live eat like this all the time? Like that is, and that's the unfortunate reality, is that so many people are just putting garbage in their body all the time. They're not listening to their body whatsoever. And then, they wonder why they feel like garbage all the time. Well, it's that cliche garbage in, garbage out, right? I mean, it's, if you really pay attention to your body and, you're running at optimal. It took me a while to understand that. I tried a lot of different. It took me a lot of different kind of, like you said, carb heavy versus oils and fats, and kind of dabbling and figuring out what works for you and what doesn't. I'm from the belief that we're all from different backgrounds. We all have different genetics in us, and we've all adapted to different kinds of foods from our ancestors. So we're not all just. It's not like one way of living works for every person, in the world. And it's that to me, it's like a never ending, you're always tweaking, you're always figuring out what works, what doesn't. So, I feel, personally a bazillion times better about myself. And I've seen my athletic performance go up since I've really taken a hard look at my nutrition and, taken a conscious effort to adjust it to constantly try to make myself better. And, I think it's going to exactly what you're saying. And I didn't mean to cut you off, man. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I mean, you've summed it up really nicely. I mean, everybody is different, and the training is a great time to experiment, running is a process. It's about building blocks. And, I had noticed how I was reacting in a certain way that wasn't positive for me. I was tanking in a lot of these races I was doing, and I started to try something different, and the results have been really positive. It's really helped me out when I've needed like a safety blanket or like a cushion, to kind of catch me and keep me going. Mind you, there's other ultra runners out there that are like they're like keto and like, all kinds of other stuff. And I'm not anywhere near that kind of level of commitment. I've just, it's about the percentages. Like, if I was a 80% carb diet, and 20% fats, maybe now I'm 60% carbs and 40% fats, and like that type of pendulum shift has made me more efficient of an ultra runner.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, I got two more questions from my mother. She's a big fan of the show. She has to be. She asked you, in your running, when you were doing New Jersey, what was the worst weather that you ran in?
I'd have to say it was pretty cold. Starting up at High Point, it was like 4 degrees. The wind was blowing and couldn't feel my hands. So in terms of like the coldest part of it, it was in the very beginning. But as the run went on, it was, it was chilly, but I like chilly weather. It was funny. I remember as the sun started to rise the first morning, I was telling my wife, I'm like, I feel so hot. Like I'm ready to strip my like hat and gloves and all that stuff. And I'm like, what's the temperature outside? And she's like, Cole, it's like 26 degrees outside. I'm like, oh, I felt like it was like almost 40 degrees. And I'm like, all right, I guess I'm going to keep my layers on. And at that moment I turned and I was in some shade and I was like, ooh, this is kind of cold. And I'm like, okay, I think I'm going to leave the layers I have on right now. Because that was the thing, right? Running this type of distance in the cold, like I didn't want to waste extra energy trying to keep myself warm. Mm-hmm. So I wore more clothes than probably what most people probably would. I did that because, funny enough, when my body was stressed, like I was able to keep my body temperature regulated.
Okay.
So I was never like sweating profusely. I was never shivering. It was never cold. I was this right optimal temperature. And that really, for me, signified that I was doing the right things to where the calories going in my body was being used to fuel my body's movement and propulsion versus trying to keep it warm. And that was huge. Like it would have been probably a different run if I had not been on top of that the way that I was. But I'll tell your mom, it was cold for a lot of it. Anytime the sun was not shining, it was cold, especially that overnight section on 206. The wind was just whipping in my face. I wore like a balaclava kind of thing up across my face, just so that my own breath up on my face could like keep me warm, because my face, I got terrible windburn. My lips were chapped for 2 weeks. I've moisturized the crap out of my lips because that cold wind blowing on you for 44 hours is, again, something I didn't really anticipate.
That's crazy, man. And I was thinking too, I can't imagine, for me at least, when you said that you're exhausted, you lay down to take like a 30-40 minute nap, that moment when you open your eyes again and like the sweat like was cold and you probably were like stiff and you still had a long way to, I'll tell you, man, that's what you did is absolutely incredible. So the cold, I bet, was you said when you started it was 4 degrees.
Yeah.
That is so crazy. That is so wild.
Yeah.
So my mom would also like to know, did you prefer running at night or during the day?
During the day. I mean, I'm not afraid of the darkness. I'm not afraid of the night. The thing about the night that's difficult is what you can see. Like in ultra running, I think I think it's something biological. Like when the sun starts to rise and you feel that warmth of the sun on your skin, that vitamin D like rejuvenates you. And I can definitely say when I got through the night, and it's like 7 in the morning and the sun's starting to come up and I'm like 140 miles in. I'm almost to the town of Hamilton, which is a huge checkpoint in this run. That sunrise, like my wife was like, you need to take another nap. You should take another nap. And I didn't feel like I needed to. I felt like now that the sun is up, the way that I'm feeling pretty good, like we gotta take this opportunity while we can, because once it gets dark again, I'm gonna feel more lethargic and feel more tired. I'm gonna have to concentrate more on being able to see my surroundings. So I would definitely say the daytime, but the nighttime was actually really nice. It was very peaceful and tranquil. It felt safe because there wasn't as many cars on the roads and that kind of stuff. It felt like I had this whole course all to myself, which was cool. You don't normally get those types of experiences running on a normally a busy road on 206, doing that throughout the night from like midnight to like 7 in the morning. Like, I mean, there was hardly anybody out there. it was just me and our support team and a few New Jersey State troopers. I wanted to make sure that we weren't doing anything foolish.
That's awesome. And so it was enjoyable running at night, but it seemed pretty easy decision. You definitely liked running in the day better.
Yeah, running the day all the way.
So this is the last part. I think I have these cards. They're called pod decks. Okay. So this is a part of the show where, completely unrelated to running and your achievements, what we're going to do, we're just going to rip off some questions here. I like to go through 5 of these things. I shuffle them up, and we just get to know you as a person. All right. So here we go. Number 1. What characteristic are you most known for?
I think a lot, people will say probably my enthusiasm, my passion. I think for me, I feel like it's my will and determination. I do think I have that X factor, if you want to call it that. It's this iron will, this like unrelenting drive to just keep progressing, keep going, keep moving. So, I would say those would be my qualities.
Could you imagine if you were like, you got, the news outlets were covering this run, and, you had your support team, and everyone was, you said they were families with signs, and people were really excited, and then, like, 15 miles into it, you're like, this is really fun. I'm not going to do it anymore.
I know, right?
All right. Question number 2. Which living person do you most admire?
Ooh, wow. For a person that's close to me, I'd have to say my wife, because she was, not only is she the love of my life, but she's someone that's just gone through such a transformation. She's got an iron will too. She, as being my crew chief and social media manager, and like just doing all the odd jobs of what this run required, like she never never said like, I can't do this, or I need a break. She slept almost as few hours as I did. She slept maybe like 2 hours the whole entire time. So she pretty much ran an ultra marathon herself. So I have to give her credit. Without her, I wouldn't be where I am today, and I wouldn't have gotten to Cape May. I can tell you that. I would say in terms of other inspirational people, there's a guy, in terms of trail ultra running, definitely look this guy up. He's a South African runner named Ryan Sands. His nickname is the Sandman. He's a guy that he was, he loved to throw down some beers at the pub with his buddies, and thought running was foolish. And he got into a dare to run a marathon. He ran a decent marathon, and then he started really training and committing to the sport, and he ran the 4 Deserts Race Series. He's the only participant to win every single stage of all 4 races.
What a story.
So like,
that's crazy.
there's virtually like almost like 6 stages per event, and he won every single stage, never lost.
Wow.
And that was his kind of breakout, and he's been a top ultra runner in the world for years, ever since probably 2009, 2010, when I first really got into the sport. So he's been somebody that's been an inspiration to me that, I definitely would like to do some of the events that he's done.
Those are some very well thought out answers. And as you were talking about your wife, I could definitely hear my fiance in the other room going, "Aww." So,
well, doing these kind of runs, it's a team effort,
Yeah.
And when it comes to crews don't get the credit that they deserve. In ultra running, that's where it's totally different. It's like NASCAR. You got like a whole pit crew, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times these people are your closest friends and family, and that selflessness that they're able to take on, and just like doing the simplest things to take care of you and make sure that you're able to have your best performance that you can, is really just incredible. So
I never realized how much
I
never realized how much of an impact the crew had until firsthand I witnessed it at I wasn't there, but I knew everyone and was following everyone on social media, those Ragnar races.
Yeah.
That's a huge, the support system there. But then, did you see the documentary about the Iron Cowboy who did 50 Ironmans in 50 states?
Yeah.
And just seeing the logistics and what his crew's doing, that was a real eye opener. Like, oh damn, like he couldn't have done that by himself. Obviously, I mean, he needed that. So definitely see what you're talking about there, man. So how about this? And you can't say your watch, okay? What's your favorite gadget?
Favorite gadget. I think most recently. So like, I used to not be a guy that would listen to music or podcasts when I would go running. I mean, I was solely just listening to the birds chirping kind of thing, and just oftentimes I train in different times of the day, early in the morning, sometimes late at night. And I just need something that can allow me to stay focused and also kind of distract my mind a little bit, so I can kind of get into that metronomic state of running. And I got a pair of the, what are they called? It's a company in Syracuse. They do like the bone conduction
the
earphones.
Jawbone?
No. Oh, shoot. I'm sure I have them on my bag over here, but anyway, Aftershocks.
Aftershocks. Yeah, we sold those at Fleet Feet, so egg on my face. I don't remember.
So like having something like that, like they're so comfortable, and just being able to like listen to podcasts and like, I mean, they've been great, and they allow for me to be safe because I can listen to, whatever's coming my way, a grizzly bear, cars honking at me, like it allows you to stay aware and stay safe, and that's really important. So that's been my gadget. Otherwise it'd be socks, because I've been Fit Socks has been a partner of mine for years, since I first got into trail running, since 2012, and they make some of the best athletic socks out there. Merino wool. They do hiking socks, they do running socks. I've used them religiously ever since 2012, and I've never really gotten blisters. I will say I did get blisters, just 2 blisters from this run across New Jersey. But the thing that was crazy was I never knew that I had blisters until there was a woman that was with the Uptown Gentle Friends group in Bordentown, and she was like, she was, I think she works in the medical profession, and she was like, let me take a look at your feet, make sure you're okay. And then, of course, we pull up the socks, and she's like, "Whoa, like, you got two little blisters on your big toe." And I'm like, "What? I got blisters? I don't even notice it." And I will say, what was crazy was, she bandaged me up and put some Body Glide and whatnot, like lubricant on my feet and stuff, and my feet were perfect. So
That's
from mile 110 to 197, I had 0 problems. And I do attribute a lot of that to those socks. I mean, it's all about how they do the fit. That's why they're called Fit Socks. So check them out. They're awesome. Great company.
That merino wool is some magical stuff too.
Yeah, I mean, who wants stinky feet? I don't. Like, that's what merino wool is all about, and it's also insulating, right? So like,
yeah.
So yeah, they're great.
All right, question 4 here. What is one bad habit that you're trying to get rid of?
I eat too much sugar. I absolutely love gummy bears. There's my favorite is this company called Black Forest Gummy Bears. I have some with me right now. They're like organic. So they're for being considered sugary kind of junk food. They're good. It's good enough for you.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a sweet tooth. I love cinnamon buns. I love gummy bears. I mean, if I go to a convenience store, my wife says, "Hey, let's pick up a lottery ticket and see if we're going to be lucky." I'm probably going to leave with, some candy. So.
Nice. Have you ever tried the Smart Sweets? Have you tried those yet or heard of those?
What's it called?
Smart Sweets. So I
definitely want to.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of gummy bears, and sugar is definitely something that I really took a hard look at. Like I gotta stop eating sugar, and especially when you learn about like how bad it is for you, this company is called Smart Sweets, and I eat it every day. They make gummy bears, they make peach rings, they make licorice, they make gummy worms. but they're literally per bag only 4 grams of sugar, and it's all like plant-based stuff. Yeah. I get them at GNC, and I actually applied to be like a part of their ambassador program because I want some free stuff because I love them. But
Cool.
yeah, I would check those out, man. That was a game changer for us, and honestly, like, it's one of those things where it's like you can tell. Yeah, come here. Here. Jenny ran in here and gave me a package so you can check them out. So here.
Oh, awesome.
This is what they look like.
Oh yeah, I've seen those. I have seen those.
Yeah, so honestly, those were a game changer for me. I'm a big fan of the gummy bears. She loves the peach rings a lot. What else do they have? The licorice is incredible. There's a brand new one. The Swedish fish, they make a Swedish fish version. They got it all. So yeah, check it out, man. And maybe I can turn you on to those because there's like no sugar in them. They're great.
I love it.
Oh, Sour Patch Kids.
Spirits. I love Sour Patch Kids.
Yeah. So there's all of them in there, man. So yeah, check that out.
Cool.
All right, last question. Ooh, this is a good last question to have too here. So what's left on your bucket list? I know we talked about some of those big races, but
Yeah.
Anything else that we didn't touch on that would be on your bucket list?
In ultra running in North America, I'd love to run an event like Western States 100. I mean, that's like everyone calls it the Super Bowl of ultra marathon running. So I'd love to run that race. Ultimately for me, like, I think those expedition type of events are something that really pulls me. I'd like to compete more internationally once, we kind of get through things and borders kind of open up and travel becomes more of a feasible reality. I'd like to run, ultra marathon events in places like China and, some of these cool, like I want to run in the Lapland in Sweden because that's like where Santa Claus lives, and like you got like reindeer and like the Northern Lights, and like I also look at this stuff as like for me, like I love trail running and ultra running because you can almost use it as a way to like explore and like take mini vacations in places that like you would normally not get the chance to go to or experience.
Oh, dude, that's exactly me. And so I actually proposed to Jenny at the World Championships for triathlon in Switzerland, and next year, so I'm doing a race April 9th. It's the national championship, and for that's to qualify for Bermuda this year in October. And I think I have a couple friends that want to go if I make it. And then in August, the national championship is for next year in Abu Dhabi. And that's
cool.
And the race is on the F1 track. That's where you ride your bike. Like, when the hell in your life would you have the opportunity to do that? So,
yeah,
that's, what you're saying, man, that's what kind of really got me hooked, too, is I'm like, hold on a minute. I can, like, go to the national championships, obviously all across the country, little cities that like Omaha and, Milwaukee, like places that I wouldn't necessarily like visit on my own, but have a reason to go there, and I can qualify for events around the world and like, come on, and represent the United States. Like, let's go. And that's, I know exactly what you're talking about, man. It's people don't understand how much it means to like represent the U.S. in different countries when you're competing against all these different countries at an event. It's just so freaking cool.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, for me, like I just want to. I got my bachelor's degree in anthropology. It's at the University of Oklahoma. It's really about understanding people and culture, and that's something that I have a general curiosity of and with is just going to different places and like being immersed in different cultures and just like taking that in and experiencing that. Like, I think those types of memories and people that you meet, like that to me is just so enriching in life, and that's what really it motivates me. It motivates me to push myself so that I can have opportunities to maybe do one of these like Arctic expedition types of events. And it's also, I think, for me, like doing the fundraising and things that I've done, like I've wanted to have a greater purpose to my running rather than just it be something that's just for myself. I want to be able to use my running as a vehicle for positive change, really. And with the snowshoe running and the things that I do, like, that you have like an organization like Protect Our Winters, POW, which, I want to do some of these events in these harsh environments because those environments are going to change, and they're beautiful places, and they're places that I think deserve to be protected and respected. I hope that when I get the opportunity to run those kind of events, that I can use that as an opportunity to be able to tell the story of that place through my experience.
That's some noble stuff, man. And that reminds me, I wanted to ask you. So, and Jenny asked in the chat here. So your fundraising with the GoFundMe, who was it specifically? Who you were fundraising for?
Yeah.
If you want to give a little bit info about them.
Yeah, so I kind of created two fundraisers. I did one that was like a local friends and family one, and then before the run, I created a GoFundMe. It's for the Roadrunners Club of America, and I chose them because they're a national brand, they're a national organization, and they do so much for the running community, both locally and across all their different chapters. So I wanted to pick an organization that had a wider reach, a wider scope, rather than just a local organization. And with the pandemic and everything, I mean, I remember reading an article somewhere that like 95% of all road races in 2020 were canceled globally. Well, the Roadrunners Club of America depend upon races and clubs that are under that Roadrunners Club umbrella, through membership fees and all that kind of stuff. And their budget was greatly impacted. And they have a program called Kids Run the Nation. And when I read about Kids Run the Nation and just what they do for these kids all across the country in terms of health and wellness opportunities, running programs and training programs and going into schools to help teach kids about being physically active. And, it was really amazing when I started this run, and I had some members from the Roadrunners Club of America reach out and say, your fundraising efforts are going to go straight to the Kids the Run scholarship. So they have a grant fund that goes directly to these kids for running in college and just other great opportunities. So yeah, I'm proud to say that all the proceeds from that GoFundMe and all the fundraising I've done has been going directly to the Kids Run the Nation grant fund and scholarship fund.
That's incredible, man. How much have you raised so far?
I think right now we're right around $7,000 between the two.
Holy cow, that's incredible! Congratulations.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully we can bump that up. You hear that, folks? Get on it. All right. I'm going to put the link in the show notes here.
Yeah, because I mean, once we get going, once things kind of open up, I mean, kids are going to need opportunities to stay active and to just be able to socialize.
Yeah.
And have an outlet. I think that's what kids have been missing. So, I'm really excited that these funds that people have been generously donating will help, hopefully help inspire kids to be active and to go big, dream big.
That's great. And if you think about it too, like from like not a business perspective, but like the cost per child to run. I mean, running's the cheapest sport out there, right? Just start moving your legs. You don't need a field. You don't need any kind of thing, just get out there and get active. So it's an awesome cause, man. I really like that a lot. So like I said, we'll put the link in there for you and see if we can't get you some more dollars flowing your way to that cool organization. Well, I'll tell you what, man, we are just under 2 hours. Did we not cover anything? Any last words? Anything else that you want, that we didn't cover, or, this is your chance?
No, I just want to thank everybody. It's been just a real honor to be able to get to share my story with so many of you out there. And, what I want people to know is that I'm a blue collar runner. I'm a guy that's just made running a discipline in my life. And, I've just worked really, really hard. And I hope that I can be a positive influence to all you out there to know that if you have a goal, if you have a dream, put in the work, make it make it something that's a fabric of what you do. Be positive. It's a long road. It's a long way to get to the top. But just know that the journey is in many ways the most beautiful part of the whole entire experience. So just embrace it and strive for big things. You can do it.
Well said, brother. That's a perfect spot to end. I can't really thank you enough for coming on and chatting, and I don't think it gets any more inspiring than what you've done and what you're going to do too. So part of, as I build this, this podcast, I don't want these to be kind of a one and done kind of situation here. I want to have you on again. I want to have you on as you continue to grow your career and as you continue to go around the world and do these crazy races and really get to tell your story. So episode 21, let's get you as soon as you get on. Maybe it's episode 100 or 200 or whatever, but we'll get you on again once stuff starts to get to open up again, and we'll continue to share your incredibly inspiring story, man. So thanks again, and I really appreciate you coming on, man.
Hey, thanks, Brian. I mean, this was great.
Awesome. Well, God bless you, brother, and we will talk to you soon.
All right, we'll see you.